Welcome to this one-off video, which is about the international incident, the diplomatic incident that is Ashes cricket as it currently stands. We're going to be looking at a few videos, we're going to be looking at a few different things, but let me get you up to speed with what Ashes cricket is. It's essentially the series that takes place between Australia and England every 2 years, and has done so since the late 1800s. So it's been around for an awfully long time. There's a lot of history with this, and I'm guessing I'm going to be trying to sort of present this to an audience that doesn't really know much about cricket. So I'm not going to get too technical with anything, but we'll go through a few of the little things that have actually caused these big upsets in the currently between Australia and England. This is literally become a diplomatic incident. Both prime ministers, for example, have now weighed in and are defending their teams against the other, and not just tongue in cheek either. This is quite serious. Test cricket, which goes for 5 days, 5 big long days, and the thing with Test cricket is that there's a very high likelihood that the game will end in a draw. People refer to it as watching paint dry, so it's sort of got this connotation of not being very exciting. But the thing with Test cricket, which none of the other forms have actually got, is that it really is a test of endurance. It's like watching a marathon run, I guess, but where the bowlers have to bowl for half that time, which is a lot of work. They're bowling extremely fast for extremely long periods of time. It's very, very tiring. The batsmen have to be on their toes and really be focusing on everything to make sure that they stay safe and can sort of then start to sort of build what's called an innings, which is where they start to put them runs together to try to get their team ahead. That's sort of, in a nutshell, how Test cricket does work. Ashes Test cricket, as I say, is played between England and Australia, and it's sort of like it's the most important of the games, the Test match games between the two countries. You can have a country that's doing very, very poorly in terms of its international standing, for example, and this is over the decades, and then will rise to the occasion when it's actually an Ashes series. It basically is every 2 years or so that they'll play in each country. So the English team will come out to Australia, play 5 tests. So it's 5 days, 5 tests, so 25 days in total. But essentially, you're trying to win each test. As I say, draws are a pretty high likelihood, not a majority likelihood, but you might start a game with maybe a 20% chance of it being a draw, as an example. So that's sort of where we are with it. And so Ashes cricket, extremely long history. There's a group in England called the MCC, who are the arbiters of the laws of cricket. They're sort of like they're at a cricket ground called Lords, and so Lords is where the last Test match was played. Essentially, it's extremely historic. They just define the rules of cricket, and so they've actually always had, like, the MCC rule book is basically the cricket rules that everyone around the world follows. They've got like a special, what's called the long room, which is where the members, and it's the only place in the world where they do this, where the members of the MCC, which is extremely sort of toffee-nosed, sort of like, it's the high society of London, are members of the MCC. In fact, the current president is Stephen Fry. If you know Stephen Fry, the comedian / actor, really, really great actor. Anyway, he's the current president of the MCC. Very sort of like very posh. They wear little sort of pinstripe jackets, like I think it's red and yellow jackets, things like this. So it's a very prestigious club to be part of, and they've got this sort of almost like a museum called the Long Room. It's the only thing in the world where this actually happens. The visiting team's dressing room is at the far end up the stairs of the long room, and then they've got to walk down through the long room, which is where all the members are, so the members can congregate. And typically they stand there and clap the team as they come on or off. It's all about, they call it the spirit of cricket and all this sort of stuff. So they're very much about all that sort of stuff. And it's important that I do establish what's going on here. So it's the only place in the world where the visiting team has to walk through the local members of the Lord's cricket ground, the arbiters of the rules of cricket, to walk onto the ground to then play the game. And when they come off, they also have to walk back through the long room again, and then back up the stairs to where they actually go. Never in the whole history of cricket has there been anything other than just polite clapping for the teams that have come off. And this is well over like 150 years of cricket. never ever happened where they've been sort of where they've actually sort of shown disrespect. Anyway, so we'll park that aside and let's just get on to the next part of it. And we still got to talk a little bit about the history of what's actually going on. So England, up until like a year or so back, had been struggling in their test match cricket. They weren't very good at it. They put a new captain in called Ben Stokes, who is the current captain. Very aggressive player, very good player, like incredible cricketer. Everyone around the world just loves what he can do. Like he's just amazing. He doesn't get flustered. He just does what he has to do. But he's what's called an all-rounder. Like he bowls and bats. But just a magical player. So he became the captain, and they appointed a New Zealand player called Brendan McCullum. And Brendan McCullum was also one of the most amazing cricketers of his generation, which he's not that old, but he basically has just, he's retired from playing and is now the England coach. And so he recognised, along with Stokes, that England was really just probably struggling mentally more than anything, I would think, just based on what they did. So they decided to try to free up the mental constraints. And so what they did was they decided to allow England to not worry too much about what's going on with the result, to allow them to then play aggressively. And it's when you play aggressively in cricket, it's like gambling. Like it's like rolling a dice and just hoping you don't roll your snake eyes, basically. But you're playing with, it's a more of a gamble. But you're gambling because you're trying to put in more runs on the board much faster. So that's actually sort of what it does go on. And so they've labelled this one as Bazball because Baz is the nickname of Brendan McCullum. Brendan McCullum was an incredible batsman and also a wicket keeper. It's like he sort of kept the wicket for New Zealand. And so Bazball has been a real revelation for England. It's been fantastic in the time that Brendan McCullum and Stokes have been at the helm of England. They've hardly lost anything, and so this it's been very intimidating cricket, and most of the teams that have come up against them have not known how to play against such aggressive play. And also by having a team where the pressure of the result has been taken off them to a large degree, and allowing them to play with some sort of level of freedom, it allows them to play in the zone. And so I think that actually does really help a lot. Gambling like that, though, is a gamble because you're playing more risky shots to try to get the reward at a higher risk. So that's sort of how it's played. But when you are putting pressure on the other team by doing that, you're also diminishing what they do as well. So you're sort of bringing them down because they're intimidated by the way you're playing. And Australia had to adapt to try. They didn't get freaked out by Bazball, which is what the other countries that England has played has done. They have gotten a bit freaked out. England will also try to goad the other team into playing the same brand of cricket, which just isn't going to work for the other team because they haven't been sort of indoctrinated with it, whereas England has. And so it's sort of quite funny because they try to goad the other team into playing aggressively. Australia hasn't fallen for that. They're playing to win, and that's sort of what's going on. What actually happened in the match is Australia got accused of playing against the spirit of the game, and so we'll have a bit of a look at some of these. Now, I'll try to be as fair as I can with this. This is where we're comparing. I'll just point out who people are. Anderson is one of the oldest bowlers in cricket. He's an incredible bowler, one of England's best bowlers of all time. He's one of the ones I was referring to about being fairly old now. Back through here, we've got a guy called Marnus Labuschagne, who is one of the best batsmen in the world. Marnus has not performed all that well in the Ashes so far, but you just know he will at some point. Anderson is about to bowl, so he's going to bowl down the wicket, and I might just turn my sound right down. So he's going to bowl down the wicket, and then the wicket keeper behind there is a guy called Jonny Bairstow. So just keep these characters in mind. So we just go through, and so this is a bowl that happened on day 3 of the last match. So he bowls. Now, at that point, Bairstow grabs the ball. Marnus is looking behind to see what's going on, and then Bairstow quickly throws the ball. He misses. He was trying to actually get Marnus out by knocking down the wicket. Now, if we go back and have a look, I want to present this from England's perspective. See how there's a white line that runs through here. Now, you're supposed to be behind that line. If the wicket gets knocked over and you're in front of that line, essentially it's the end of, you've lost your wicket. You're sort of out of your crease. Now, Marnus is batting slightly outside his line there, like outside the wicket. And so he's bowling slightly forward, which will give him a bit better chance to sort of have not as much bounce in the ball. So that's why he's doing that. So he's actually standing there. When it goes back through to Bairstow, I'll just let it play forward again. So Bairstow gets it and immediately tries to do it, but Marnus has now stepped back in behind the line. So Marnus was watching the ball, watch what Bairstow did. He's back in behind the line. This is fair play, by the way. This is, like, I've got no problem with Bairstow doing that at all. So, but this is from England's perspective, that they say the difference here is that Marnus was standing in front of the line when it happened. Now, the same thing happened to Bairstow, which is what the whole contention actually is. We'll have a bit of a look at this one and just go through it in some sort of detail. So we'll just go forward. So, and that's fine. This is now Bairstow batting on the last day. And so this is the last day of the match, just before lunchtime. There's Ben Stokes, the England captain, the one I was telling you about. Incredible player. And he played... They say it was the innings of his life. He scored the most sixes, which is like the biggest hits you can do ever at the Lord's Ground. And we're playing at the Lord's Ground, which is the home, as I say, of the MCC, the Marylebone Cricket Club, which are the arbiters of the laws of cricket. So that's where we actually are. Bowler in through here, bowls down. We've got our wicket keeper is, or not saying ours. I'm trying to make this international, but it's we've got Alex Carey is the Australian wicket keeper. Bairstow, like, let's just put this into context. Like, Bairstow missed hitting the stumps and things like this. Bairstow is more of a batsman than a wicket keeper. England has decided to go with somebody who, rather than having a dedicated wicket keeper, like Carey is a dedicated wicket keeper. He's very, very good at wicket keeping. Bairstow is better at batting than wicket keeping. So he's not the best wicket keeper. So England has got the strategy of trying to do more with the bat, more with getting runs than with trying to do what you need to do as a wicket keeper. So this is a similar sort of thing that actually happened in this particular match. So we'll just go forward again. So he ducks under it. Now Carey picks up the ball. And very quickly, similar sort of deal with what actually happened. The difference here is that Bairstow was walked out of his area, and so Carey picked up the ball. Now, there's a lot of things about the umpires don't know what's going on. Australia's extremely happy because they've got him out. There'll be other sort of things that do come from the side here, but Bairstow, and what England is saying is it's not fair for Bairstow to go out this way. Now, this is what happens. He ducks under it. Now, when you put the timing in, by this time, see how he was standing in behind the line. So he was in his wicket at the time. This is what the English people who are upset about this are saying. He was in his wicket, so there was no reason to throw it, except that what Australia noticed was he never looked behind, and what he would then do is just wander forward. Now, at this time, the Carey has picked up the ball and is already in the process of throwing it. So he's already thrown the ball at this point when Bairstow is still inside the wicket. Bairstow doesn't look behind. Now, everyone who plays cricket is taught to always watch the ball, always make sure that it's dead, meaning that basically it's not going to be, there's no play that goes on, and then it continues on. So this is the bone of contention. And so in this case, he then does that, walks away, never once looks behind. At this point in time, the ball is already on its way to his wicket. So we just watch what happens. Bang, in she goes. So he's now out. In one sense, he looks like a real goose, and people have sort of said that he's been quite dozy. He's made a massive mistake here by not looking at the ball. And Carey had noticed, or it's been noticed by the members behind, or by the Australian team behind the wicket, that he kept on doing that. He would actually stand there, not look where the ball had gone, and then just walk out of the crease to go and he's not trying to get a run. So he's not trying to get any sort of advantage here. But this is the bone of contention. The fact that he standed behind the line, Marnus Labuschagne was slightly in front and then put his foot in behind it for when the other ball came through. Now, Bairstow missed with his throw. Again, people are joking about his lack of skills with that, but in reality, it's the same sort of thing, but not quite. And the not quite is because he started behind the thing. So anyway, he's then given out, and so that is essentially what has become an international incident. And look, when I first saw it, I'm thinking that's fair play. Like the other thing too is that if Alex Carey or Bairstow, like if we go back to the other ones back in through here, if we look at Bairstow again, so this is Bairstow back in through this other side. If when you look at it, one motion, he picks it up and throws it straight away. That means that the ball is still live. So when a wicketkeeper, if the wicketkeeper holds it and then and does nothing with it and then sees that he's left his crease and then throws it, it's a dead ball. There's no way that can be given out. But when it's all sort of grabbed and thrown in one motion, that still means the ball is in play. The onus is on the batsman to make sure that the ball is still in play, or that it's gone dead before they leave their crease. The crease is inside where the wicket actually is, that white line. So Marnus Labuschagne has looked behind. Bairstow has done it in one action. Not a problem in the world with trying to do that. Not a problem in the world. So why? And the only problem with this one is that, see this one here, it doesn't even look. He's looking to the front. And we'll just play it forward a little bit. Now, again, one motion, bang, same deal, and he just walks out. Never once looks behind. If he had just looked behind at any point in time, he would have seen the ball was coming back to him and he wouldn't have left the crease. So from my perspective, and not just as an Australian, I think it's sort of fair play that it's Bairstow's fault for being what they call dozy. He was sleepy. He didn't check that the ball was dead. And he was so simple. He could have just looked behind and thought, oh, here it comes. Okay, I'll just stay here for a second until the ball is dead, and then I'll go and have a chat in the middle of the wicket. So that's the incident that has occurred. Now, when you look at a lot of the commentary that's gone on about this one, there's been quite a lot of really, really vitriolic things coming from England saying it's against the spirit of the game to do that because he wasn't trying to get an advantage. Marnus Labuschagne was trying to get an advantage, they say, by standing just outside, slightly forward towards where the ball was, and had to put his foot in behind. It's very, very minor things, but God, it's just become such a international furor. And as I say, the prime ministers are weighing in. Commentators are violently on one side or the other. Anyway, this was just before lunch. When Australia came off to go to lunch, I'll show you some more clips of that. So this is just a footage. There is actually footage of this, but this is just a photograph of the long room. You can see it's almost like a museum all the way through here. The members, as I say, these are the MCC members. The like, as I say, the sort of like the fairly toffee sort of London. In Australia, they've been referred to as the group of London property developers who are basically standing in here. You can see there the red and yellow ties, red and yellow jackets. They also use blue as well as one of their colours. Red and yellow through here. So this is a very, very elite group of guys. And so it's the only place in international cricket where you have to walk past all of these members along this walkway, up these stairs to get to your dressing room. That's the only place. And never, ever has there been any heckling. It's always been polite clapping, which is great. And everyone who plays there has always said they love the tradition of being able to sort of walk through the long room and have the respect of the members no matter what's going on. You know, it's really, really cool. Anyway, the MCC members and the ground itself were vitriolic about what was going on. They were hurling abuse at the Australian cricketers as they walk through this room, which is supposed to be sort of like hallowed ground. This is supposed to be the sacred of the sacred in terms of cricket, as that is actually concerned. You can see through there, we've got a couple of players in through this side that have been heckled so much that they're coming back to then talk to, to actually ask that some of them be ejected. So there's Usman Khawaja is one of the Australian batsmen who is widely renowned as being one of the most fair players that's ever played the game. Amazing player. And so he's come back. And I don't know whether there was racial abuse that was hurled at him. I'm not sure what it actually was, but he asked for two of the members to be ejected, so he actually pointed them out. And that's again never happened before either. So there's a lot of drama. This is on the way into lunch. So the Australian cricketers are coming in to have their lunch, and then before they go out to play another 5 hours of, or whatever, of 4 hours of gameplay, but basically about 4.5 hours of potential cricket to still be played in the last day. And so they've wandered in, and as I say, there's been and everyone through here with the members, or a large percentage of them, are yelling out cheat, cheat, cheat all the way through. Or there's this song that I've got to talk about the Barmy Army as well at some point. Anyway, the Barmy Army is like the England cheer squad who follow the English team around the world and sort of sing all these different songs. They've become a little bit boring of late. They only have like one song now, which is Aussies always cheating, or something like that. Same old Aussies always cheating. And so that song was being sort of sung by the members in here as well, which the members hated the Barmy Army when the Barmy Army first started. I loved them, but then now as I say, they used to have such clever songs about the opposition team, and they'd sing all the songs as the teams were playing. It would put players off, but it was really, really funny, really, really good. Anyway, that's what's happened in the long room. I'll show you a bit of a clip. There's a clip of just what they're doing. So after they walk along this very, very long area, they then walk through here and then up the stairs. So we'll have a look at it from the perspective of the stairs. All right, so here we go. I'll just let it play through. There's only 40 seconds. So they're heckling them. Never, ever, ever has that happened before. There goes the umpires. That was the wicket keeper who got Bairstow out. That was the bowler who did it. There we go. There's someone with a bit of respect. There's one member with a bit of respect. Anyway, that's the Australian team trying to go through the long room to go to relax and collect their thoughts before they go back out on the ground. And this is supposed to be protected ground. Anyway, after all this, the English most of the commentators, to be honest, say it's the rules, it's fair, it's the way it was. But there's a very vocal percentage of particularly English supporters, I guess, that have actually sort of looked at or not just supporters, but commentators and things like that. There's been a few of them that think it's not to win a game where you do that is not in the spirit of the game. So they've called the spirit of the game argument up, which is pretty much doesn't mean much, because it's whoever calls it is the one that's the arbiter of what the spirit of the game happens to be. Now, it has been called into play a few times, and not just by England, but England does it a lot more than anybody else. And so, was it in the spirit of the game for Bairstow to try to stump Marnus Labuschagne with that first clip that we saw? Yes, it was, absolutely. Was it in the spirit of the game to try to get Bairstow, who hadn't been looking behind, out in the same way? And that's the contentious one. That's a bit of a 50-50 as to what should go on. From England's perspective, they're thinking that, and from the Lord's perspective, they think Australia should have actually declined the wicket, like getting the wicket out, or getting Bairstow out, and called him back to keep on playing. But this is Ashes cricket. Australia hasn't won the Ashes in England since 2001. So 22 years, basically. This is a long, long period of time. I think it's 2001. It's a long period since they've actually won the Ashes in England. It means an awful lot to Australia. Most of the team that we're watching through here were probably 10 years old the last time Australia won in England. So are they going to satisfy the whims of these toffee guys to call what's called the spirit of the game back in, or not? Now, the English captain then called it that he would have called him back because it's not in the spirit of the game. So he's made it worse. Brendan McCullum, the coach of England, also backed that up and said it was not in the spirit of the game and they should have called him back. But now all of this other footage is coming out, particularly of Brendan McCullum, who was the wicketkeeper for New Zealand for many, many years, doing it 3 times to other players in very similar sort of circumstances, taking advantage when the other player really wasn't doing anything. So it's one of those nebulous things. At the time, depending on who, like from my perspective, it's all fair. Bairstow should have been protecting his wicket. That's on him. It was his doziness that actually caused the issue, and so they should be angry with him and not with the fact that the laws say that you're out if you do what he did. So anyway, I thought I'd just present it because that has caused such a furor. I hope I've explained it as to what's actually going on, but now what's happening is because of all this stuff, I might just play a little bit of Piers Morgan's rant about it, because he is really, really aggressively thinking that this has destroyed cricket. We'll play a little bit of that. Actually, I've just found another clip. I'll just play this. There's so much that's coming out where England didn't do the same thing. And this is one where Bairstow is the wicket keeper for a slow bowler. He's standing up to the stumps. We'll just have a bit of a look at this one here.
What's happened here? Let's have a quick look.
Bairstow is back in here. He waits. Foot gets lifted. Bang, off it comes. That is not really, that is not in the spirit of the game, because he's actually now waiting. The guy was behind the line. So they're finding all this stuff. They're finding all this footage of where the English team have done what has happened to them, but worse over time. Now, is this worse? Probably not, because but again, the batsman here, foot behind the line, not a problem, assumed the ball was dead. There was not one action. He was waiting, and he waited for and again, it's fair play. And that's the batsman's fault for not looking at what was going on. So but they're finding so much stuff. And as I say, the coach of England, when he was the wicketkeeper for New Zealand, did it 3 times in his career. So he's actually, there's so much coming out now where it's very, very two-sided. So anyway, I think it's all fair play. Bairstow should have protected his wicket, and that's the end of it. But as I say, the both prime ministers of the countries are getting involved, and we'll have a little bit of a look at Piers Morgan, because that is quite funny. I'm sorry, Piers, I love what you do. I'm actually a big fan of what Piers actually does say, but he's very, very hyperbolic about what's actually happened here. So we'll have a look at it from Piers's perspective, and we'll sort of debunk what we can. And I'll point out some of the other little things that Piers gets upset about, to try to then try to sort of explain why he's saying that it's not in the spirit of the game, and why it actually still is, certainly within, it's not against the spirit of the game, in my opinion, anyway.
You don't need to be a cricket fan or even a sports fan to be incensed by bad sportsmanship. Every so often there's a sporting-related abuse of basic fair play that's so outrageous it transcends the game to become a national or even global furore. The bedlam that broke out during the Ashes Test match at Lord's yesterday most definitely met that mark on and off the pitch.
Now, I'm glad that he has actually mentioned off the pitch. So he's talking about the Lord's membership, as to what they've actually sort of done there as well. So because that really was, for me, that was breaking the spirit of the game, not what happened on the field. But we'll have a look at it from Piers's perspective. He does show footage that's very, very much presents his argument. I hope that I've been fair and balanced with what I've shown.
The home of cricket witnessed an act of unsporting treachery by Australia.
I love that. It's just, he's so hyperbolic. It's I love watching Piers Morgan. He's such an entertaining commentator. I really, really enjoy watching him.
He's got the entire nation raging. Let's have a look at it.
Now, again, watch how fast. Look, try to keep track of what's happening with Bairstow, because this is actually the key to Piers Morgan's argument. So Carey grabs the ball and throws it. Look at Bairstow's head the whole time. You'll get an idea when he starts to scratch what he's doing a little bit. He's already scratched at that point, but the ball's already coming back. So the ball's released as he scratches in behind what he's doing. And that's the important thing. We don't get to see it really all that clearly.
Oh, now this is going to be interesting. Jonny Bairstow's walked out of his crease here. This could well be out. A double blow for Australia. Out for 10.
Here we go.
England's Jonny Bairstow last week held a hero over dispatching.
Oh, by the way, yeah, at the start of the same match, the Just Stop Oil protesters tried to invade the pitch, and Bairstow was the wicketkeeper at that stage, and he picked up one of the protesters, and they're throwing their orange stuff, which is really bad. You know, like I don't know how security sort of let them get onto the field, but they almost got to the central pitch, and that would have destroyed the game. So I'm glad that they did it. And Jonny Bairstow was a hero for what he did. He picked up one of the protesters and literally dragged this guy, or carried this guy, not dragged. He actually carried him up across to the ropes and threw him over the boundary, basically, to get rid of him. And then there was another guy that was there as well, and one of the Australians, and also Ben Stokes, the captain of England. They both actually cajoled this other protester away from the pitch. So they did protect the pitch. But yeah, Bairstow was a hero in that instance. It was quite cool actually to sort of see it. One of the funniest things, but it could have destroyed the Test match if they had have got to the pitch. So it's unusual for the actual players to have to protect the pitch like that. I haven't seen that before either.
Ducks a ball and then scratches.
Now remember, try to put this into context. The ball has been bowled. It's already being released by this stage. So Carey's releasing it. He has not looked behind. The ball is already heading towards the wicket. So the ball is still in play at this point. Pierce's argument is that Carey is waiting for Bairstow to leave the crease, and waiting for him to actually go before he throws it, and that's not the case. He threw it because he'd seen the pattern of Bairstow not looking behind. That's why he threw it. And so, you know, is it within the spirit of the game? I'm thinking that people will argue about that. I think it is. I think it's certainly fair play, and you know, it's clever wicket keeping. It's what wicket keepers are supposed to do. They're supposed to look for these advantages, and he did, and he got the other England wicket keeper, and the England wicket keeper tried it just 2 days beforehand. He should know better. He should know better.
Something that suggests that
Bang.
In the apparently mistaken belief the over was finished.
Now, the fact that Bairstow thought the over was finished, which the over is sort of basically with all the actual balls that get bowled, 6 balls in a row. So and then you swap ends essentially, and another bowler takes over. But Bairstow thought it was over. He didn't check that it was over. And the rules actually state that both the batsman and the fielding side need to consider the ball dead before basically it's a dead ball. And so the ball was definitely live, because by the time he ducks under, it's gone through to Carey by this stage. Carey has now grabbed it and is in the process of throwing it back. He's already now being thrown back. Bairstow doesn't look behind, he looks down, scratches to say, hey, I'm safe. But the ball is already on its way at that point.
To speak to his batting partner, England's captain.
Bang, gone. It's such a funny shot. It's such a funny incident. It's just, yeah, and there we go. The rest of the Australian team's gone up.
The Australian wicketkeeper, Alex Carey.
Anyway, I won't go through the whole clip, but yeah, it's, but Piers, actually, no, we will look. I think he says something fairly vitriolic here.
Stumps anyway, and Bairstow was subsequently given out. Now, according to the laws of the cricket, let me be clear, that was the correct decision.
There we go. At least he's fair about that.
Says that is out. Australia didn't cheat. Well, not like they cheated a few years ago when they were caught using...
Oh, here we go. Australia did cheat a few years ago, back in 2018, I think it was, against South Africa. And so England is milking this for as much as they possibly can. It was a completely different side. That side was punished. There are still some players that were involved in that have had to serve penalties, and they've come back into the side. And England is just milking it to try to get as much advantage as they possibly can. And Piers is on the bandwagon.
To manipulate the ball. That was cheating. But what they did at Lord's yesterday wasn't in the spirit of the game. They knew, we all knew, that Bairstow wasn't seeking to gain any advantage.
See, this is where they're saying that he didn't seek advantage, but in reality, he was dozy, he was dopey, he didn't look behind, it's his job to protect his wicket, and he didn't do it. And it should be 100%, or let's just say that there's a bit of contention because he did scratch his foot or something like that, but the ball was already heading towards the wicket when he did scratch his foot. So if there's any contention, it should be like 95% Bairstow's responsibility and problem, not the Australian team to call him back to be within the spirit of the game as such, according to Piers Morgan and the MCC. Anyway, I won't play the whole clip, but yeah, Piers is very, very angry. And there's a lot of people in England that actually are. And on the other side, there was an incident the day before where Australia was not awarded a catch, where a player, when you look at it, you think, yeah, he's definitely caught that. But according to the laws of the game, it wasn't a catch. Now, it's the laws of the game. That's fair enough. And as I say, like everyone in Australia is sort of thinking, well, it was a catch, but it didn't actually, like the guy who caught it didn't do the correct thing at the end of the catch to consider it a catch. It's fair. It's within the laws. The English batsman at the time didn't look at that and think, oh, that is still a catch. Within the spirit of the game, I should walk off. And so there's been a lot of other things that have come up where people have been very high and mighty in their terminology from the English cricket team about how it's not in the spirit of the game. But then there's all these clips coming out where each of these players have done stuff definitely outside the spirit of the game themselves. So it's very, very two-faced from England, I've got to say, unfortunately. So my apologies if you are an England supporter. I hope I've been fair about the way I'm presenting this, but it is quite interesting the way it's sort of gone on. I have rabbited on a bit too long here, but anyway, that's where we are. So this is an exciting series. England need to now win. To put this into context, Australia is the current holders of the Ashes. They won in Australia last time, and so whoever is the current holder, if it's a drawn series, like if Australia wins 2-2 or something like, because Australia's already got two wins now, and there's 3 games left to play. If Australia wins 2-2, Australia retains the Ashes, but you don't win the Ashes as such. So you still retain them. You're still the holder of the Ashes, but what Australia wants more than anything is to win the Ashes in England, because it hasn't happened since 2001. So there's a lot of time that's gone. The current players would have been like 10 years old. A lot of them 10 years old, probably some of them not even really born yet, when the last time Australia won the Ashes in England. So it's a big, big deal to actually win the games for Australia. It's not like the spirit of the game doesn't matter much when it comes down to putting down the W next to each of the actual games itself. England has not focused on getting the wins. Australia has, and Australia plays hard. That's the way it goes, and so it's all fair. And Australia's not going to give up an advantage like that, and I wouldn't expect anyone to. If that was the Australian wicketkeeper that did the same thing, I'd be furious at the Australian wicketkeeper for not protecting his wicket. It's not up to the other side to call him back. It's up to him to be sure about what he's doing. Anyway, I'll leave it there, but it's very, very interesting. If you are at all into cricket, watch this next Test match. This is going to be a monster, because already there's been protection for one of the players' mothers has had to get protection after the last match. There's been all sorts of stuff. Security has been ramped really, really high because of how aggressive the England. We're going into this is like an absolute cauldron. This is in Wales. This next game is played at a place called Heningley, and this is sort of like the most vociferous and sort of ferocious of the English supporters is at this particular ground. So I think that from what I've read, there's been security ramped up. Australia's really looking forward to it, from what I can sort of see, because they love this banter and they love the shouting that goes on. They love the sense of occasion that comes with these sorts of games. So this next one is going to be a really exciting game. Anyway, leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments if you like this sort of stuff. I know it's not my normal fare, but I thought I'd just explain what's going on if you're sort of stumbling across it thinking, what on earth is all this crap going on about this 5-day game that's going on? Now you sort of know. I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.